This is Frederick Watts.
This is Jean Watts. And this is Love in 60 Seconds.
We have been married for over 20 years.
And in that time, we have learned a few things that we'd like to share with you.
So if you're single, newlyweds, or seasoned in marriage, we think you will enjoy the upcoming program.
Absolutely. And we want you to like, engage, share, and do all of those wonderful things that we do on Instagram, Facebook, and every other social media outlets. Send us DMs. We want to hear from you.
This is
Love
in 60 Seconds.
60 seconds. Love in 60. Love in 60 seconds.
Hey everybody, good evening. This is Frederick and Jean Watts, and this is Love in 60 Seconds.
Hello.
How are you? Welcome to everybody watching on Facebook and YouTube.
Yeah.
Shout out to those of you that are tuned in on Instagram. We appreciate you. As always, it's good to see you, good to hear from you.
Yeah.
And please continue to like and share. And if you're watching this at a later time, we'd love to hear from you. Please comment below if you're on Instagram or Facebook. So tonight we're going to get into our topic. We have a topic tonight, and shout out to everybody that is watching. And
Yeah.
hello
Good to see you as we were we on last week? I'm trying
no,
to sleep.
we missed last
Yeah,
week.
well, I think I was sleepy last week. Sorry, guys. Sometimes we study, and I have such a huge or busy day. And you were out of the country last week. You were in Chile last week, weren't you?
That's correct. Yeah.
So yeah, that's why we did not come on. But we're here tonight, and we're going to talk about some really interesting, an interesting topic, and some different people had kind of been suggesting this topic, but we're going to kind of get into it tonight. We're going to share some insight on, and hopefully help some people deal with this actually very common issue during COVID. A lot of people really found out how common this issue was, that they had to be in the house with their spouse. They had to be in some space, the same space, and kind of learn a lot more about what happens in a person's work day, how they interact with other people. I found out, gosh, I love my spouse, but I really hate my marriage. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. So that's our topic tonight is that I hate my marriage, but I love my spouse. So thank you guys for tuning in. If you're watching on Instagram, we see your hearts and your likes. And if you want to engage with us and talk to us and chat with us, you can definitely tune in on a Wattsup video on YouTube and Wattsup Entertainment on Facebook. So let's get into our topic tonight. So I guess you remember that movie we talked about with Martin Lawrence called There's a Thin Line between love and hate. What does that mean when we talk about that? That dynamic?
Well, first of all, people can both want to make sure that people understand, or I guess, there should be some normalization to the fact that you can really like your spouse and not like them at the same time, or you can really love or like your spouse, but not like the way that you guys relate. People can feel positively and negatively towards the person that they love, and that's not a surprising thing. Those closest to us are the ones that can push our buttons. They're the ones that can make us feel all warm and fuzzy and just like, oh my gosh, you just feel like I'm on a million for them. And then at the same time, you can be like, oh, I want to kill this joker because I can't even understand what they're thinking. They're on the ziggity boom right now,
Right.
And you can think that about the same person. And sometimes it doesn't even take that long for you to feel that same way about that same person. Those switches can flip really quickly. So, you can be really attracted to them, but you can like hate them at the same time. So, but those feelings, and hate is kind of a strong word, but sometimes you can, hate the way that you relate to one another. You can really be attracted to a person. You really love that person. You love that things about that person's personality and the way that they interact sometimes with others, but may not like the way they interact with you because they may interact with you differently than they do others. So again, that thin line, as you asked, between love and hate. Did you want to expound? You want me to continue?
That's fine. No, I just like the subtitle basically is I hate the way we relate. You know, that can be an issue. You can love the person to death and love all the things about them.
Yeah.
But if there are parts of the relationship that you can't get the relationship to work, communication,
Yeah.
conversations, feelings, all those things, then that can discourage you in the relationship.
Yeah.
So when you talk about a thin line, you're talking about, that happens. There's our days or moments, times that there's a thin line between love and hate.
Yeah. I mean, for example, and if we get, and we want people to understand a lot of times, especially people that are new in relationships, that are new in marriages, that it is normal for you to, maybe some things that your spouse, that they do, to irritate you or to get on your nerves. That's a normal thing because we are imperfect people and we're interacting with each other. That is a very, very common thing. We were talking with one of our children today, and my husband made a comment about how I complain about the way that they all drive. But he said, he's like, oh, your mom gets on my nerves so bad when she complains about my driving and when she pushes on her imaginary brakes in the car. And I do. And, I think that my husband is a great driver. I think he gets me everywhere that I need to be safe. But sometimes I feel like he gets me there a lot quicker than I would have normally gotten there on my own and too close to some of the cars, maybe. So that's one of the things that I would say, like, oh my gosh, that kind of, would maybe upset me. And ladies, you guys help me out, hurt me here, because I know some of your husbands be like driving super fast too. So like, yeah, let me know. But that's one of the things that I would say is like, oh my gosh, about my husband. But he says the same thing about me, about when I complain about it, when I say, oh my gosh, thank you ladies for all the hearts. I'm seeing the hearts. I'm feeling the love. I'm feeling the love. Because men drive faster. So at any rate, that's something though that for some people can be a really, really serious issue. And I'm just using that's a small thing. For some people, that can be a serious issue. It can be the source of a sore spot. It can be a source of arguments. It can be a source of things that generates negative feelings. And I'm still getting hearts. Thank you. Negative feelings towards your partner. And it does not mean that you have a bad relationship. He's super slow, so that may make you feel upset too if he drives like he's 100 years old and he's super slow. But he can drive me anywhere he wants to. I get in the backseat of y'all car any day.
And I refuse to comment on this because our household always knows that we got three boys that drive, and we all say the same thing about my wife and her mom. So their mom. So. Yeah. Now you're going to get in this conversation. We know who the best driver is, and we know who is the safest driver, and we know who's a backseat driver. So anyways, so as we were saying, so before you were truly interrupted.
Okay. Again, it seems that hating some things that your partner may do in the moment. And that was my point, that if you hate it in the moment, doesn't mean that you hate your partner, or it doesn't even mean that you hate your relationship with your partner. There are things, and we want to, especially for newer couples, make sure that we separate that dynamic. Just because you have an argument about, or this is a consistent argument about this thing, it does not mean that that's a bad thing. That's a rotten part of your relationship, but it's actually a bit of a revelation, and that's something that you can kind of relax about. That's kind of a normal thing, and that's just something that you have to work out on a day-to-day. And most relationship rhetoric basically focuses on the positive and negative of the two ends of the spectrum. You're going to have those positive, loving feelings, and then you're going to have negative feelings sometimes towards your partner or your spouse, I should say. But you want to, and vice versa. But you want to make sure that the balance is in the proper perspective.
So having bad feelings is not always, or it's just a part of the relationship.
It's a part of marriage.
You're going to have good days. You're going to have bad days. And what makes you hate the relationship is that if you're not able to have the tools to communicate and solve the issues.
Absolutely.
And address issues. And that's what we're trying to help you with tonight. It was sort of a joke saying that we hate our marriage, but we love our spouse. But we're trying to basically say that if you don't use certain tools, and like the tools I talked about a few weeks ago on how to have a good relationship, if you don't use those tools, then your marriage to the person that you love won't be at its full potential.
Absolutely, because regardless of how you put it, marriage is work. And a lot of times, and I'm just going to be super honest and very transparent, a lot of times we don't want to put that work in. I have some mums on my front porch, and I told my husband, I said, one day I was outside and I was watering them, and I had to I was going through, it's very tedious because sometimes when you pot mums and not plant them in the ground, you have to really take extra care. You got to keep popping the dead heads off of them to keep the colors vibrant for them to keep coming up. You got to keep watering them, especially if you have them in decorative pots and not like the pots that they kind of come in. So I had all of those decorative pots. I wanted the extra Jewish. I wanted my mums to be fancy. But God is my witness. I was outside. I was watering. I was like, and I literally said within myself, I hate taking care of these flowers. I wish I did not have to take care of these flowers. I didn't have to water these flowers. And I honestly heard the Holy Spirit say, anything that you don't have to take care of or water is fake. And that's the same thing with your marriage. If you don't cultivate it, if you don't water it, if you don't prune the dead parts of it, anything that you don't have to do work with is fake. It's fake. It's not real. So you got to really put that effort and put that work into your relationship so that you do not hate it. So that it is not your relationship like, I love this guy, but I do not even want to be here. I love this girl and I don't want to be in this relationship. You got to put the work into it, because if the love is there, even if the love isn't there, you can make it. But if the love is there, you definitely can make it in that relationship.
And you have to really strive on the days that you do have those feelings to use those tools, and then to be able to, when you don't feel like working, press through to work through. And I think Kenyatta said, if you don't use the tools, which are the word of God, to resolve issues, marriages can become very frustrating. You have to consult God in order for marriage to work. That's very true. That's a very good statement. If you're trying to build a house and you don't have a hammer or nails and all you have is a water gun, even though you got a tool, you're not going to have the right tool. You're not going to have the right tool. So having the right tools absolutely are able to help you work to be successful in having a good, successful marriage.
Need some coffee.
No, not at all. So how do we get through anger when you're mad, or when you're disgusted at your partner, or that you're disgusted in a relationship, or you're just at a point where sometimes you're angry? What's the solution to that?
Well, I think the first thing that we have to realize is that not all bad feelings that you have about your spouse, or not all bad times, is bad. Those things should be that wake up moment to help you to pray. And I said this before, you don't get to complain about your spouse if you're not praying for your spouse. If you are not consistently praying about your spouse's behavior or about them in general, you don't get to complain about them. You don't complain about what they're doing if you're not praying for them, because prayer is the thing that changes things. Prayer changes things. And the first thing that prayer changes is the person that's doing the praying. And so if you're not praying for your spouse, don't complain. But if there's bad things that are happening in your relationship, you definitely want to make sure that you are sharing with your spouse how you're feeling, what it is. And then, of course, taking those things to God. And then those things should drive you to pray and drive you to pray together. Like it really should drive you to pray together. And of course, there's a such thing as too much, bad feelings or too much hate. But that ratio, like there was a study that was done, and they were saying that, relationships that have 5 parts good feelings and 1 part bad feeling, those are still really good relationships. But relationships that were seemingly like heading towards divorce, those had like 8 part bad feelings and only like 8 point something, and then like 0.2 good times or good feelings or good emotions in the relationship. Those are dynamics though that you can change. Those are things that you can change. Again, you don't want to have too much of a negative emotion in relationships.
Okay. So, going when you talk about next part is letting go of anger and compassion, and skipping down to that, even a good point that you were talking about after taking your partner's perspective is trying not to foster resilience or things in a hurtful way.
Mhm.
And I think that is important because when you're dealing with anger and you're dealing with emotions, because like even in other relationships, it's not even marriage. If you let anger consume you, then you'll never be able to resolve any type of issue that you're having.
No.
And so, and the opposite of anger is love, or, like you said, compassion. And so you have to have a proper tool to be able to let go of that. Because a lot of times you'll get angry, you get mad at your spouse, and it's basically the next action to that emotion is what's going to affect the relationship.
Absolutely. And what ends up happening with the couples, especially that have been married for a long time, is they'll be like, after a while, they'll be like, you know what, I'm tired of this. And that's because you have not released your rights to be angry, and you have not released the past. So it's actually built up. It's actually built up, because when a person just fell in love and they just in love with somebody and it's all fresh and new and you excited and everything is good, you see things through rose-colored glasses. You see that person, okay, they made a mistake. Oh, it's okay. It's all right. They ate my cake or whatever. It's okay. Whatever it is, you're very forgiving. But, over time, those things begin to add up, and that cup of iniquity, as my bishop would say, starts to get full. And if you don't pour some of that out, it's going to get to the place where you're like, you know what? I'm fed up and I'm sick of you. I'm sick of you and I'm sick of your shenanigans. I'm sick of what you're doing. I'm sick of your mama. I'm sick of your stepkids. I'm sick of you. And I'm sick of our kids. You know what I'm saying? You're sick of everything and you're done. But you got to get to the place where you're not done, that you deal with those emotions. You deal with the part that's negative. You deal with the part that and you let it go. You pour that cup of iniquity out. You get rid of it. And it's a process. It's not something that you do overnight. You have to really work on it. You have to really work on making sure that reservoir of forgiveness, that reservoir of patience and tolerance and compassion and love, that reservoir is empty, so that it can be poured back into. There more can go in, you can take more. Because otherwise you'll see people, I've seen people that have been married for 30 years and they said, you know what, we calling it quits. We done. We out of here. I'm sick of you. And I'm sick of everything that you do. Right. And that, to me, really, like I'm telling you, you married 20 plus years. No, nobody wants you. Not for real. And they may act like they want you. They don't want you for real. Because they don't want all the baggage that you're about to come with. Because you come in with all that other person. I don't care what you say. So work it out. Fix it, and let God fix it, because God honors and loves and wants you to be successful in your relationship. He doesn't just want you married. He wants you happy in your marriage. That is his desire.
I like the analogy of a reservoir. Being a reservoir gets full, but I like that you have to at least have one. If you don't have any grace for your spouse, for them to make mistakes and for them to have bad days, then you're not going to be able to have a successful relationship, because there's good and bad days and good and bad times, and all those in life, So if you don't give them the grace, then it doesn't matter if you go to counseling, or if it doesn't matter if you try to have some tools, because if you don't have the grace or the reservoir to pour into and to expound out of, or to let go, because a reservoir also has a dam at the end of it. And so, when the reservoir gets full, like you said, or if it overflows, that dam is to release some of the water. So if you don't even also have the tools to make sure that when there are things that go your way or don't go your way, if you don't have a dam to release some of that pressure in that reservoir, it's still not going to be successful.
Got to release the pressure
and letting, and getting your relationship back on track. because don't be fooled. No matter if you've been married 30 years or 5 years or whatever, you're gonna have, like you said, good days and bad days. It comes. It's how you handle the situation, which is gonna give you a effective relationship.
Yeah, that's why I said we all need grace.
Yeah, we all do.
Yeah, and we do need grace. Nobody is perfect, and that's the reason that we need all that grace in relationships, because we're going to be imperfect on one end, and the other person is going to be imperfect on the other end. Unless, of course, you're married to me, then I'm perfect. I'm just kidding. I've never done anything wrong.
Of course not.
No, but those things, we need patience and grace with one another, and again, emptying that out, so that you can have room for more grace, so that you can have room for more tolerance, room for more patience and long suffering. There's also, in addition to what we talked about, it seems that when you have, you got to find ways to know that the good days outweigh the bad days. And you got to make sure that you're majoring on not the minor, but majoring on the positive things, that that your spouse, the traits that they have, the things that they've done, the memories that you have. Focus on those times. It's really, really easy to focus on negative things. It's really easy to focus on those things, especially because negativity, it's like, for example, when I was in the second grade, and I tell the story often because sometimes it just blows me away, just the story, but I was in the second grade and I had a substitute teacher who was my substitute teacher for 2 days, was the meanest, most hateful lady in the world, just an evil lady. I remember her. She was so mean, just a horrible lady for 2 days. And I can remember everything about that lady. But I do not remember my second grade teacher who taught me the whole year. But I remember the lady who taught me for 2 days. I have no idea who my second grade teacher was. I think it might have been Miss Messina, but I have no idea. And that is crazy because that tragic 2 days overshadowed the whole school year of somebody who was good to me. I remember I loved that lady who was my second grade teacher, but I can't remember who she was. And she was always good to me. But I let 2 days as a child, 2 days, take away the memories of the whole goodness. And a lot of times we do that in our relationships. We will let small things take up and overshadow all the goodness in our relationship.
Especially if you're dealing with conflict a lot, especially if you are in your relationship, in your marriage, and you're at a point where you're arguing or fighting all the time. If you're constantly just, picking at each other or having disagreements or annoyances all the time, then you're probably not understanding each other. And, and that's where, counseling comes in or communication comes in, is making sure that you're able to understand each other, to resolve your conflicts. And if you are, bickering and talking bad to each other and doing all those things, then you have to step back and look. I was talking to, one of our sons. I was like, if some of the issues that you may have with other people, and it's consistently the same issue, maybe take a look at yourself to make sure that you may not be the cause of some of the issues that you have with other people, and it's the same in your marriage. If you are having a certain issue or whatever, make sure that you're not the cause or the root of that problem that your spouse may be having, or the situation that your spouse may be dealing with.
That you're not the trigger.
Right. That you're not the trigger.
That's words that we use nowadays. This thing triggered me. Make sure that you're not the thing that's triggering what's happening. So, we're getting ready to kind of get down to it and wrap it up, but we want to make sure that you are focusing on making that love-hate ratio. Make sure that you show more love than you do hate, that you experience more love than you do hate. And again, like you said, the key is understanding. They did a study about couples, and even though couples that argued almost every day were still happier, because the ones that out of all the ones that argued every day were happier because they felt like they were understood, even when they had conflicts that were not resolved, where they agreed to disagree. they felt happier because they felt like their spouse understood them and they were able to have conversation and go back and forth and feel heard and say, okay, this is what it is, but we're going to agree to disagree. Those couples were happier than couples who argued less but did not feel like they were understood.
Mm-hmm. That's good. And because they probably didn't communicate that.
Absolutely. Didn't communicate.
Yeah.
That's very, very, very serious when you're communicating with your spouse and making sure that you're talking and that you're sharing and that you provide a safe place for your spouse to fail, a safe place for your spouse to share with you. And, some things like with us, we have to know the divorce is taken off the table. It's off the table. So if I come to my husband with failure, whatever that failure is, or whatever that situation is, or whatever the thing that has made me unhappy, or whatever thing that I have done to make him unhappy, we have to come and be able to have a communicating, come to Jesus or whatever it is, and talk about it and make sure that each person is feeling understood, and that there is a place of forgiveness. If that's necessary in that moment. If it's not forgiveness, at least understanding.
Very good. Yeah, because if you're not understood, you can't be happy. And it doesn't matter what relationship you're in. If you're in marriage, even if you're single, if you're not understood, you're not going to be happy dealing with the people that you deal with on a daily basis. That's on your job, wherever, at church or whatever you do, wherever your social places, you got to feel like you are understood. Edith Murphy said that there has to be a mirror when it comes to grace in marriage, for sure. Yep. Give grace as you want from your spouse. Neither of you are perfect, even if you're the only one that's right in your own eyes. You have to constantly work on those grace levels. That's very, very good. And she also said you have to be or have a safe place, because it's super important. Yeah. And you got to, really, to be satisfied, you have to work on you first.
Absolutely.
It's hard. I don't like the analogy of a marriage being 50-50.
Yeah.
You have to be 100. But what I like is that when you are able to let go of your anger through compassion, is what we were talking about, that proves that relationships can survive conflicts.
Absolutely. So we're going to talk about the 7 points, and then we're going to wrap up. There are 7 points of kind of helping you to get through, get back to loving your relationship. And if you, love your spouse, but you hate the type of relationship that you have, there's ways and there's tools that you can use to fix it. First, before we even get into these 7, the biggest one is, praying. For your relationship, praying for your spouse, praying for one another. Again, you don't get to complain about how he acting if you don't pray for him. Hush and pray. You don't get to complain about what she's doing or what she's not doing. Hush and pray for that person, and then talk to them. You know what I'm saying? Don't nag them. Just share, hey, you're feeling in a loving way and in a gentle way. You can say anything kindly.
Wait, you're saying that I can't share my feelings and talk to you however I want to?
Absolutely not.
Oh,
You're not.
But you just said I could share my feelings. No, and that's going to help us break through everything.
Nope. If I tell you, so if I'm having a conversation with you and you keep making me chocolate cake every weekend, and you make me a chocolate cake, and I don't really like chocolate cake. So I could either be like, oh, honey, I really appreciate this chocolate cake. I love that you made it for me. Maybe let's try some other flavors. Chocolate is not my favorite, but you kind of make it my favorite because you make it. But let's try some other flavors. Or if I say, why you keep making chocolate cake? That's not even I don't even like chocolate. Now, which one would you have picked? Which one was a soft way to not crush his spirit and not honor his efforts? You know what I'm saying? There's no reason to say stuff rude. There's no reason to be. You should be not. Your spouse should be the person that you are the nicest to in the entire world. You should be the kindest and the gentlest to your spouse. If you are having a conversation with somebody on the phone and your spouse says something to you while you're talking on the phone, guess who you should be super nice to? Your spouse. And even if the other person that's on the phone is a bill collector or whoever they are, or you're trying to get something done, they can kick rocks because you don't even know that person. You know what I'm saying? We don't know them. We don't care. I mean, be nice to everybody, but you should be 10,000 times nicer to your spouse when you're talking to that person. You know, that's the thing. So let's get into it.
And I want to add on to that.
Yeah.
And also, it makes sense when you say about having a compassionate tongue, because you know that's that saying about it's easier to catch flies with honey than it is with vinegar.
Yeah.
Nobody want flies. I don't want no flies around me. You know, I don't like that either. You know, you don't want flies in your relationship.
No.
You don't want that drama. So speaking, no matter, and you can't use, well, that's just the way I am. No, because what's happening is that you're taking away the foundation of what a successful marriage is based on, that communication and that compassion. And like we've been saying all through this topic tonight about how important grace is. Yeah.
You know, if you're gonna act a clown and you're gonna be mean and whatever, then you know you reap what you sow. You know what I'm saying? If you sow seeds of anger and smart mouth and discord and being short with your spouse and showing them the, you know, stonewalling them, and we're gonna get into all of that. But don't be surprised if that's what you reap, that's what you get back.
Yeah, in some form or fashion. It may not be the same way, but it may be.
But you're gonna get it back.
We'll talk about it. So, number one in surviving the conflicts in your relationship is to take your partner's perspective.
Absolutely. You want to assess your own point of view, but you want to take your partner's perspective and make it your goal to understand why your partner feels the way that they do. You want to make sure that you understand that as best you can. You know, why does that person feel like that? And sometimes, you know, it takes you years of unpacking their baggage to do it. Because you believe it or not, you're going to unpack your spouse's bag because they come in with some kind of bag. Now, some people just come with a little overnight bag, but some people come with a trunk. And you got to unpack that thing. It takes a little longer to unpack some things than others, but you gonna unpack a bag. Trust that part. Some bag is gonna be unpacked because everybody got one. So yeah, you want to make sure that you are understanding their perspective and that you are humbling yourself. It takes a lot of humbling yourself in order to do that.
They like that. Some said what kind of luggage they have, no matter what kind of luggage it is. If you got some luggage, you got to unpack it.
Yeah, that's right. If it's Louis luggage, it can be Gucci luggage, but it's still luggage.
Because if you don't understand, like if you, I like this story. My wife has told lots of times to our family about, bad experience she had with cats. And, you know, neither of us are really fans of cats, but if I didn't know her past, you know, and all of a sudden she starts saying that, you know, hey, maybe I want a pet or something like that, and I bring home a cat, that's not good, you know. It's not going to work well because I don't understand her person. Now, and it might be like, we need a cat. We might have a mouse or something or whatever. We need a cat. Right. But if I don't understand her perspective of why, you know, and the only way that you are able to understand that is over time and communication. Or the saying about walking a mile in somebody else's shoes. You know, there are reasons, like you said, when you start peeling back that onion and getting to the layers of relationships, it's very important that you do understand your spouse's perspective, and then that'll help you be able to navigate. That might change the way you converse, it might change the way you touch, love, or all those things, because you understand the way they feel.
Absolutely.
So number two is what you call avoiding the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. And
I said this because
which is a great analogy.
These things are destructive. These particular things in a relationship, guys, if you don't remember anything else that we say tonight, which I hope you remember everything, you can go back and listen to it again. But I said, you know, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, because these particular 4 things are very destructive to any relationship, not just your marriage, but it's destructive. There's our light. Destructive to your relationship with your children, with your parents, with your best friend, you know, whomever. And those things are criticism, defensiveness, contempt, or stonewalling or silent treatment. So stonewalling or silent treatment, same thing. So those things are terrible and are super destructive for your relationship. Super destructive.
And it pretty much sums it up. It's gonna bring a apocalyptic end to your relationship.
Absolutely. It's gonna destroy it. Again, criticism, always criticizing your spouse. You don't do this, you don't do that, you're not this, you're not that. Why don't you ever do this? Why can't you be like this person? You don't do da da da. That criticism, terrible. Defensiveness. Well, why you always asking me why I'm doing this? Why you always accusing me of this? Why you make me feel like this? Defensiveness. Listen to the person. Don't be on the defensive. Listen when they're trying to share something, and don't share whatever you're sharing in a criticizing way. Contempt. Just what's the best definition, I guess, of contempt? Like you're in contempt of court. Being just obstinate. You know what I'm saying? Just being ignorant, acting really. You know what I'm saying? It being in contempt, and then of course stonewalling or silent treatment. Not talking. I'm just not gonna talk about it. Just like
And that's pretty much what somebody had asked, how stonewalling different from taking a time out. Taking a time out is basically what you were about to say. Is that when you take a time out, you're removing yourself from a situation to take some time to yourself and then coming back to resolve the issue. Stonewalling is that regardless of if you're taking a time out or not, you have no intent of resolving the issue. You're trying to make sure that your partner understands that you're
making
mad,
them
that
pay.
you're angry, making them pay. And
you're
that's
taking 2, 3, 4 days to come back and visit the situation. That is not appropriate. It's not appropriate behavior. I'm gonna shut you down for 2, 3, 4, 5 days. I'm not gonna talk to you. You're gonna text me and I'm gonna text you back in one word. You're gonna talk to me, I'm gonna talk to you back in a yes or no with no nothing. I don't got nothing to say.
Right.
I don't have anything to say. You've said everything.
True.
That is not, no. You haven't said everything, and you haven't said everything. You say whatever needs to be said, and if it gets too escalated, if it gets too heated, if it gets too much, then you say, hey, you know what? This is getting too much out of hand. I don't have a lot of emotional energy for this right now. Let's table it right now. And we're gonna come back to it. We're gonna fight for it. We're gonna live to fight another day. We're gonna come back and we're gonna deal with it another day. So those 4 things will really destroy your relationship if you're alive. All right, let's go back. Let's go to number 3.
Number 3 is give your partner the benefit of the doubt. And that just pretty much is self-explanatory. Before you jump to conclusions, is that you make sure that you understand them. Make sure that there is a reasonable situation or something that is causing you to raise your eyebrow. Always, or what were you gonna say?
No, I'm just gonna say assume the best and not the worst, and believe that their intentions were not malicious. This person did marry you. You did marry this person. Try to believe that their intent, even if they say it nasty, even if they pop off, try to say, okay, assess it and be like, okay, this person was in their emotions, they was in their feelings at this moment, and this is why they came at me sideways. Okay, or this is why they said what they said, the way that they said it. But try to believe that that person did not really mean to have malicious intent or really mean to hurt you when they said what they said or when they did what they did. Give them the benefit of the doubt. Give them the benefit of the doubt, and because some people do not know, or some couples haven't developed these tools yet, and some people haven't developed these tools yet, so they don't know how to react, or all they know how to do is react, and they don't know how to have a controlled action or a controlled reaction. So if they're triggered, they're gonna pop off. Period.
And number 4, and this is something that a lot of people do, I have to do, and I haven't done, or, you just learn, is reflecting on your partner's positive traits. Because if you reflect on if they have negative traits, then that's going to cause you to be stuck where you are with what's bothering you, or like if you think about like, oh man, like, oh, I don't like the way that they, cock their head to the left, it's like, well, you like the way that, that they were cocking their head to the left before you got married, and now if this is a trait or something, I'm being general and being simple, but if it's a trait that, maybe didn't know until you spent more time together, you just have to be able to concentrate on the positive.
Right.
And I don't mean it like you got traits or you got issues. It means that both of us have to be able to not dwell on negative, because if you were ever to think about, or when I deal with this, and I meant more like in situations of just, life, it's like, if I dwell on a negative trait, because nobody's perfect,
right?
Everybody has something,
right?
But when I think about all the positive traits that you have, that my children have, or being thankful, it allows you to have that grace, because if you can get up every day and find something negative about somebody in your home, in your relationship, your mama, your daddy, your kids, but because nobody is perfect,
right?
And when you think about that, nobody's perfect but Christ, then you're able to dwell on all the great things that your partner brings to the relationship, and it's very, very important.
It is, to try to bring that back around. If there's something that your partner does or your spouse does that's good, make sure that you are mentioning it not only for their sake, but mentioning it for your sake, because it brings up good memories. It brings up good emotions. It brings up good pheromones. It brings up goodness there in that relationship, and it lays a foundation for tenderness and love and response to be responded to. So, definitely that. Positive traits, number 5.
You can say it.
Okay. Team, whomever. We team Watts, team, whatever your last name is, you are team, whoever you are. You think of you and your partner as a team rather than opponents. You're not working against each other. You're working with each other to build something. You're building something. You're building a life. You're building a future. You're doing things. You're building companionship and relationship and camaraderie and all of those things. And you're not opponents. You're not on opposite teams. You're on the same team. If you lose, they lose. If they lose, you lose. Your team has lost. Your team is disqualified. Y'all lost because you're not on the same team. But when when one wins, then the other wins, and you both win. So you got to make sure that you're again acting as a team, and the goal is to figure out together why you don't see eye to eye, and then find a solution. It's not to win a fight or to prove your partner wrong. If you prove your partner wrong or you won the fight, you still both lost. But if you guys come together in peace and in joy and forgiveness and reconciliation, exactly, Team Brown, and reconciliation, then everybody has won. And it's good. That's right. Team Murphy. That's whomever you are, Team Moore, Team Callaway, that's your team. And you got to continually build your team. Every season a team comes and they play the game. Every season, whatever your season you're in, your team has got to play, and you playing to win.
You may have a lost season this year.
You might have a lost season.
You may go 0-12.
You may go 0-12, but you come back to fight again and get the cup the next time. You're gonna get the cup. You're gonna get the trophy. You're gonna get the ring the next time.
That's right, because and then you have a whole village rooting for you.
Absolutely.
Everybody on your team that loves your team wants your team to be successful. Yeah. So you have stuff to be invested in. And then, there are seasons of loss. Yeah. There's seasons and there are seasons when you're going to win. But that team should always be together. Yeah. Don't mean you can trade players.
No trades.
No trades. The trade deadline does not apply in marriage.
No.
But it does mean that if you are successful and you work to build your team, and that's something that you should work on year after year, that team gets stronger and stronger and stronger. And when we talk about teams, you can't be on the same team and have different rules.
Ooh,
you can't say, well, this works for me, but if my spouse does that, that's unacceptable.
Ooh. Yeah, And that is such a common thing. And again, it goes back to that grace. You have to have grace for what you do. Because if you eat chips in the bed, You got to have grace for your spouse to eat chips in the bed. Even if you don't like, now why you don't like your spouse to eat chips in the bed, but you eat chips in the bed. Or be like, well, I don't eat chips. I eat popcorn. Well, it's the same thing. You're eating in the bed. So you got to have grace. You got to have grace for yourself. Grace for the same stuff that you deal with. You got to have grace for your spouse. The same, if you say something bad or you do something that's out of turn, you got to do it. You say each team goes through boot camp with the vision to win. That is so true. That is so true. Recognize that these rules and these tools that we're giving you, these suggestions, they're not going to be easy to follow all the time. You gotta make sure that you guys both playing by those same rules. You gotta, keep the and the Bible is the standard. You know what I'm saying? The Bible is the standard, and charity suffer long. You got to be long suffering. You got to be forgiving. You got to 490 times at least for the same offense. Be like, no, I forgave him 490 times for a bunch of different things. No, he got to do it. She got to do it 490 times.
Right.
So,
and talking about the team concept, I just thinking about like whether it's basketball, football. Most sports, soccer, baseball, there's an offense and a defense. And even depending on where you are in your relationship, you might be going for it. You might be on offense. Everything's running smooth. Everything's going great, and all this, we're clicking. And then sometimes you may have to play defense. There may be a challenge. There may be an issue that causes you to, have to play defense, have to set up some screens and set up some protections, some fences. But if you don't have a successful offense, or if you're always team defense, then it's hard to be successful in going to that goal. You have to be strong on both areas, being offensive minded and being defensive minded. But going back to that title we just put up, if you're playing football according to baseball rules, you're not going to be successful. And so if you aren't having some type of rule book, and your rule book should be the Bible and a Christian foundation of what we believe is on how to apply the rules, then your marriage can be successful. And then that leads into being able to after you recognize that it may not be easy, but remember your goal. What is your goal? What is the end game?
Absolutely. Give yourself a scripture or a mantra to repeat when you start feeling angry with your spouse, or it's not liking your relationship, or not liking what you have. Start speaking life over what you have. Start, whether it's a scripture that says, be understanding, or humble yourself, or a scripture that says charity suffers long, or love suffers long, and love, never fails. Whatever it is, give yourself something to meditate on. Give yourself something to speak into your own mind, into your own spirit. Just, coming to even listening to these things to give yourself tools on how to have a successful marriage and how to have a happy marriage. Again, we do these things. We have to actively, we talk about them, but because we actively have to do these things to make sure that we are having a good relationship. We want to have we'll be celebrating our 25th anniversary in February, but we want to have 25 happy more and 50 happy more. The Lord gives us that life to have 50 more years. But, we want to celebrate goodness and happiness, and we don't want to be like, oh, I'm here with this dude, and people expect me to stay married to him. You know what I'm saying? Who wants that? Nobody wants that. But we want to enjoy one another. So we want to continue to have those scriptures or whatever it is that keeps you grounded, that keeps you having a staple and speaking life and goodness over your marriage. If you keep talking about your spouse, he ain't no good anyway, and he crazy and he get on my nerves, or she a bum and she a slob and she don't never cook and she don't clean and she don't do this. Okay, so you're speaking that over your spouse. One thing I tell a lot of women, Psalms 112 is an amazing scripture to pray over your spouse, over your husband. Psalms 112. That man in Psalms 112, it's a lot of good scriptures to pray over your husband, but Psalms 112 He's everything. It prays over his faithfulness. It prays over his money, over the kind of character that he has, over his spirituality, over all of those things. Not only pray Psalms 112, but speak Psalms 112. Look it up when you get an opportunity to go and look at Psalms 112. But Psalms 112 is an amazing scripture. And I will say, since I prayed Psalms 112, and I have a reminder in my phone every day to I pray every day, thank the Lord, and not to break my arm, pat myself on the back, because I have to pray every day because I can't make it if I don't. But I do pray Psalms 112 over my husband. Put a reminder in my phone, an alarm goes off and tells me to pray Psalms 112 over my husband. And when I tell you, since I've been praying that, and I've been praying that for quite some time, God has really done something amazing in his life. And the spiritual growth, I mean, he's always been strong in the word. He's always been strong in our family, leading us in the word. But the spiritual growth and the revelation that he has in the word that he shares with me and with our children. Like, he even shared something today when we were talking to one of our sons, and it was amazing. And it was about parenting. And he talked about honoring the father and the mother. And what did you say it was? It was the what was it? Okay.
It was a commandment that, it talks about the promise.
Yes, it was the first commandment with promise.
With the promise, and which is different. I mean, not to go into that part of Bible study, but it's important when we were sharing that, be able to discern how the word is and what it means, and then being able to apply it. Yeah. To your situation. And same with your marriage. If you're able to just not read the word but understand it and have some discernment and apply it, then it makes it a function. Because if you go to school and you have a textbook and you open it up but you don't read it, and if you don't understand it, you can't apply it.
Absolutely. But that's one of the things my Psalms 112 prayers has accomplished, ladies. Amen. That he can study this word, and that he can come out and with some revelation that is a help and a blessing to not only me, but to our children.
Yeah. So we appreciate you guys tuning in this night. We went a little bit over our time.
We're sorry.
But we appreciate you guys tuning in. Those of you on Instagram up there. And excuse me, as always, follow us on Instagram at Wattsup Entertainment, Facebook at Wattsup Entertainment, and on YouTube at Wattsup Video. And thank you guys for tuning in this evening. Thank you for engaging, liking, and sharing. It's always a pleasure for you guys to tune in with us. Shout out to Sister Moore. We see you. God bless you too, and your family, and to the Callaways and the Browns and the Murphys and all those that had tuned, the Stricklands and the Moores, all those that tuned in this evening, and then all of you that watch it at a later time. We do appreciate you guys. So as always, we appreciate you guys, and we will be back next week. God's saying the same. This has been Frederick and Jean Watts.
This is
Love in 60 seconds.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Well, guys, we have to wrap it up this evening. We really hope that you've enjoyed our conversation.
Yes, this conversation has been amazing, and we want you to tune in again next time so that we can discuss more of these amazing topics and these topics of interest. Then don't forget to DM us, contact us, reach out to us, and we will definitely respond back.
If this has been Love in 60 Seconds, don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram.
All right, good night, everybody.
60